GPU inventory is getting better. But even with GPU inventory being better than it's been in the last probably 2 years, we're still seeing prices of GPUs well above MSRP. So if you're looking for a budget gaming PC, or maybe just a GPU to hold you over until the GPU prices come down just a little bit more, I've got what I think are the best GPUs available on the market now. And all of these are under $250, and all of them will support 1080p gaming. Starting off today's list is the RX 560. Now there is a 2GB and a 4GB version of this GPU, so make sure you stick with the 4GB version, which is still selling for about $125 to $150 on eBay. Now this 5-year-old card is nothing to write home about, but it will still allow you eSports titles and 1080p gaming at about 75 FPS. Now on your harder to play titles, you should still be able to manage 60 FPS experience. However, on your AAA titles such as like CyberPunk 2077 or Red Dead Redemption 2, you're probably going to be stuck somewhere around the 30 FPS mark. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for AAA titles unless you're willing to drop your resolution down to about 720p or so. And even then, CyberPunk 2077, you're probably still going to struggle to maintain good rates with it. Now for just a little bit more, at let's say about $175 on average from eBay, you can actually get the bigger brother, the RX 570 4GB model. Now just like the RX 560, with eSports titles on an RX 570, it's going to be no sweat. You should average somewhere around 100 FPS on low or competitive settings, but you should be able to also maintain a 60 FPS average on the AAA titles, including things like Red Dead Redemption 2. Now CyberPunk 2077, you may have to drop resolution or play on all low settings because, well, Cyberpunk, am I right? Now, up until recently, the RX 570 had been going for about $225 to $250, so being able to pick this up on eBay for around $175 is a great sign for the GPU market, and I'd also suggest checking out your local markets because if you can get it for about that on eBay, typically speaking, you'll find a better deal on your local market. Now moving up the list at about $200 brings us our first nVidia competitor, and that is the GTX 980. Now for eSports, you're looking at somewhere around 150 to 200 FPS on competitive settings, and for the harder to play games, you should be able to still maintain 100 FPS average depending on the settings that you choose. As for AAA titles, you'll be able to maintain 60 FPS just like the RX 570, however you may get away with better settings depending on your CPU choice. And if you have questions about CPU and GPU pairings or how much you should spend on a particular GPU in this ever-shifting market, make sure to jump over to the PinkyTech Discord server. I'll have a link to the server in the description below. And coming in at about $200 to $225 is the most controversial pick on this list, if you can call this list controversial. And I'm going to say it. It's the RX 6500 XT. Yeah, I know, and for those of you who don't know, AMD nerfed this card to make it unattractive to crypto miners. Unfortunately, in doing so with the choices they made, they also made it pretty unappealing for gamers as well. So as for the limitations of this card, it's been well documented in other places, but just to hit the highlights, there is no hardware encoding, so that means no streaming, no video editing, and no recording of gameplay. It also only has one DisplayPort and one HDMI output. And it has been limited to PCIe by 4-lane support, which means it's going to perform even worse on a PCIe Gen 3 system. All that being said, it can maintain 1080p gaming at 60 FPS even on AAA titles. So if you're not willing to buy used or want to have a warranty, etc., this card at $200 to $225 is essentially your only new option that you have at this current time. Now I will say you will get a better value buying used, and also do not purchase this card if it's over $225 because I just can't recommend it. It's not worth it. Even though some add-in board partners have made $300 versions of this card, they look great, they have 3 fans, it's not needed, you're paying for looks, just don't do it, you're not going to get the performance out of it. Now, if you're willing to spend that same $200 to $225 out on the used market, I would recommend picking up the GTX 1060 6GB model. Now, this is going to perform similar to the GTX 980, however, it is newer and does consume less power, and in addition, you get 2 more gigs of VRAM, which will help you, I guess, in longevity. And this card is still king of the Steam hardware survey, even after all these years. Now, if you're new to the used GPU market, you do need to check out my video right here on how to protect yourself when buying a used GPU. And as always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.